Mr. White reported inconsistencies with shadows throughout the backyard photos. Here in 133B, we see sunlight coming from the figure's left, throwing shadows well to the right rear as evidenced by the shadow of the rifle barrel on the stairway post. Yet we see a patch of light on the right side of his neck, which should be in shadow, and the V-shaped shadow under his nose remains the same. Oswald's neck in the backyard photos presents other problems besides shadows. Here, in 133A, a slight bulge can be detected on the left side of his neck. Oddly enough, this unexplained bulge is not seen on the neck in 133B, but a similar slight bulge can be found in the shadow of the stairway post several feet to the rear of the figure. After making careful measurements of Oswald's neck using the formula circumference equals pi times the diameter, White compared this to these official police mugshots. The one on the left was made in Dallas, while the one on the right is from New Orleans. White concluded that both police mugshots depicted Oswald with a collar size of about 14.5 inches. But the backyard photo depicts Oswald with a collar size of more than 16 inches. It should be noted that all of the shirts found in Oswald's possessions were of medium size, the 14 to 15 inch collar range. White claimed this is yet another sign that the backyard photos are fraudulent composites. But if the Oswald figure and face in these pictures raise questions about their authenticity, the backgrounds pose even stranger problems. At first glance, both of the original backyard photos, 133A and 133B, appear to have a background photographed from slightly different perspectives. But these apparent differences are simply the result of cropping or framing the pictures, according to Mr. White. By cutting off the bottom of the background in one photo while cutting off the top in the other, a false perspective is achieved. By bringing both original photos into alignment as shown here, we find that the background of the photos, the grass, bush, stairs, fence, and house next door, all appear to be identical. In 133A, a green triangle points to a patch of sunlight on the side of the house behind a post holding the stairway. This highlight has not changed shape in 133B, indicating the camera making the photo could not have changed positions horizontally. Here, a red arrow points to the edge of the roof on the house next door. This too remains unchanged in 133B, indicating that the camera never moved up and down. Each red dot represents an identical point in the background of these two supposedly separate photographs. Shadows on the stairs and fence, leaves on the bush, and blades of grass all appear to match perfectly.
This sameness of backgrounds in two separate photographs is possible in only two situations. One is that the camera was resting on a heavy tripod which never moved between frames, or that a single backyard scene was used as a background for two composite photographs. Of course, the official version of the taking of these two photos has it that Oswald's wife used a cheap handheld camera. She has specifically denied using a tripod. On the basis of these inconsistencies, anomalies, and the evidence of retouching, I believe that these incriminating backyard photographs, highly publicized as proof of Oswald's guilt, are nothing more than cleverly constructed composite forgeries, fakes.
And Jack White is not alone in this charge that the incriminating photos are fakes. Major John Pickard, a photographic expert with the Canadian Defense Department, has stated publicly that the backyard pictures have the earmarks of being faked. He too called attention to the conflicting shadows and the perfect match of the Oswald faces. Another expert, Detective Superintendent Malcolm Thompson, a past president of the Institute of Incorporated Photographers in England, also has branded these pictures as fakes. Thompson said he felt the incriminating photos were the result of a montage of separate pictures. Another noted British photographic authority, Geoffrey Crawley, seen here with White in London, studied White's work and said it was as thorough and as accurate as any he had ever encountered.
Well, strong evidence indeed that the incriminating pictures of Lee Harvey Oswald and his weapons were faked in some sophisticated laboratory. That someone set out to deliberately fabricate evidence against Oswald. But what about the two official investigations of the United States government? What do they have to say about these questions raised by Mr. White and other researchers? The Warren Commission of 1964 and the House Select Committee on Assassinations in 1979, after giving opposing conclusions about President Kennedy's death, closed up shop, leaving no one to answer these vital questions. All we're left with is their official reports. Dan?
The Warren Commission concluded the photos were genuine. This was based on the testimony of FBI photographic expert Lyndall L. Schoenfeld. Schoenfeld said that the negative to photo 133B could be shown to have come from the Imperial reflex camera reported to have belonged to Oswald. This was based on markings on the negative which matched markings in the camera. Schoenfeld said since the two photos appeared to be taken at identical times and places, it was his opinion that the two pictures were not composites. However, Schoenfeld also said he could not positively identify the rifle in the photos as the same rifle held by the FBI as the assassination weapon. Apparently, in an attempt to resolve the problem of the conflicting shadows, Schoenfeld presented the commission a photograph of an FBI man recreating the backyard pose of Oswald. Taken in bright sunlight with a body shadow which matched the one in the photo, this official photo might have settled the question of whether or not the Oswald neck and nose shadows might be duplicated naturally. Oddly enough, the FBI cut off the man's head in their photo, leaving the question still open. Schoenfeld explained that he cropped the agent's head because he didn't feel it was pertinent. In the late 1970s, the House Select Committee on Assassinations was created by Congress to review the evidence in the deaths of both President Kennedy and Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. This official panel did little better than the Warren Commission in determining the truth of these assassinations. Faced with acoustical evidence of a second gunman in Dealey Plaza, the House committee grudgingly admitted that Kennedy probably died as the result of a conspiracy. In an attempt to resolve the dispute over the legitimacy of the backyard photographs, committee experts turned to a system of measuring and comparing minute distances in photos known as the Penrose distance statistics. They endeavored to prove the size and shape of Oswald's facial characteristics were identical in several different photos of him, including the backyard snapshots. Using complicated mathematical formulas which matched the Penrose system measurements with the backyard photos and other pictures of Oswald, the committee experts concluded that there were no biological inconsistencies in the photos to support the idea that anyone other than Lee Harvey Oswald was pictured. In other words, these government-hired experts asserted that the man in the backyard photos is definitely Oswald because his feature measurements matched other shots of Oswald. These paid experts also concluded that the backyard photos were genuine by studying identifying marks made by the camera's film plane edge on the negative of 133B. After comparing scratches on the 133B negative to other film exposed through the Imperial reflex camera, they were able to conclude that the markings matched, therefore indicating that the 133B negative indeed came from the camera reportedly belonging to Oswald, evidence enough for them that the photos are genuine. The government experts also concluded that there was no fakery involved in the backyard photos by closely studying Oswald's mouth in the two original pictures.